And greetings, readers and travelers, and welcome to another episode of Stats on Stats. Today, I am joined by HP Holo, who you know her. We've had her on the show twice now, but only one says HP. No, I guess three times because Halloween, uh,
About Halloween,
the
yeah.
ED Sky episode, and the Christmas little stream we did with Burn. So three times. Wow, you're one of the few that's done a three-time show with us, and we
I'm
love
turning
to
into a
see it.
regular.
But you know her for her works as, well, the Monster Punk Horizon series because Monster Hunter, and we love Monster Hunter here. But also, joining us for the very first time today is someone we've only heard about on the show, never actually been seen until today. But joining us is the man, the myth, the legend, Jacob Holo. Jacob, how are you today?
Oh, I'm doing quite well. I'm happy to be here. Been looking forward to this.
We are excited to have you on because today we are just really pumped to talk about this because it's one of our Silver Tongue episodes. So for those who don't know, Silver Tongue is where we come on the show and promote. It's a little bit different from our normal structure, but we are going to be promoting one of Jacob's new books, but also talking a little bit about the ones that are already out. And yes, Zeckler, it's okay. We know you're here. Hi, Zeckler. We love you. Welcome in. So,
Jacob recognizes Zeckler now because Zeckler has a cameo in the latest Titan Mage book.
Yeah.
and the stats don't. I am hurt, but I'm excited, so we love to see it.
On my list, I can't remember. I'm going. Well, I've got this list of people who asked to be Tuckerized in the series, and as I write, I go through, and if I find a spot that really fits what they've requested, then I try to fit someone in. And there's been at least one in the past two books, I want to say. But yeah, I'm going down my Patreon list.
Go down that
And
list. Well, I think I'm in there somewhere. I don't know because I know I subbed at one point. Financials have not been good to me because tax season just happened, and we're not going to talk about that. But today we're going to dive a little bit into a little universe in Bane's books, starting with the first book called The Gordian Protocol, which is by David Weber and Jacob Holo. Jacob, why don't you tell us a little bit about the Gordian Protocol in this universe?
Well, universe, it's actually a multiverse setting. And the Gordian Protocol kicks it off with a fair bit of action and explosions and drama. So Gordian starts off with you essentially have two historians, one from the 30th century, and they have to team up. And the reason they have to team up is because a knot has formed, basically at a critical junction in time between 16 different universes. And if this knot is left unresolved, it will essentially destroy all 16 universes. And so they have to go back, they have to change the past along the timeline that they are currently in. Now, when they do that, that particular timeline is probably going to go away. And the inhabitants of that timeline are not particularly happy about this. And so they are pursuing our two historians with a squadron of heavily armed time machines with elite synthetic soldiers, crewing them, and yeah, they got a cliff to climb. Those two characters, and of course there are supporting characters as well, but they're sort of the two historians are sort of the leads.
All right, so when we first, start the book and everything, we're jumping through different timelines, and I mean the prologue is. Let's pull up my note sheet.
Library of Alexandria.
The ransacking of the great library
of 30 BCE, which we're talking about wine. First sentence. That's my kind of talk we're having right here. We're just cheap wine. Well, when you live on a budget, cheap wine is your best friend.
Mhm.
So, when you were coming up with like the different timelines and everything, because this book it jumps all over the place. We have the 30 BCE, we have 1995, 1886. I want to say is one of the years, and then we get into what is the present day about a good quarter of the way through where it's but the alternate timeline. How did you like get to these different places when writing?
So the part of it was, part of it was David, part of it was me. And the initial concept for what became the Gordian Division series was something that David proposed to Bain Books something like 30 years ago. And he proposed it along with 9 other proposals, one of which was Honor Harrington, one of which was Safehold, one of which was the Norfressa novels, and on and on and on. A lot of those proposals have been very successful for him. Um, and so he, um, he brought up, say, hey, Jacob, I'd like us, how about we write a time travel book together? And what David didn't know at the time was that I'd once sworn that I would never, ever, under any circumstances, write a time travel novel. So, so of course, my response to him was, given that he's, New York Times best-selling author David Webb was like, "Why, yes, David, I think that's a wonderful idea." Yeah. um, and so some of the foundation was already there. And he took that foundation, he expanded upon it, and he had the he's the one who put together the initial plot outline. He did the alternate history,
Okay.
and he left the essentially the design. And I'm talking on a design level right now. He wanted me to do the design for the two 30th century societies, Siskov and the Admin. And so he gave me a sort of rough write-up of the two, kind of what he envisioned the general differences between them to be, and um, what role they were to play in the story. And so you can kind of think of that as a kind of a picture frame. And then it was my responsibility to fill in the picture frame. And I remember working on it the first time and thinking to myself, I know I'm going too far here, but I'm just going to be bold and I'm going to put in front of David, and whatever he doesn't like, he can tell me. And so I did that, and I sent the file to him, and he basically liked everything.
All right.
And I thought I was going a little too far with some of the aspects with Cisco, which don't really, they're a little bit muted in the first book. They come into play in subsequent novels, and you can really see a lot of it in the Janus file. But one of the things that David wanted from this collaboration was for essentially a different style of future society. And even though David is very good at world building, he's very good at creating, fictional societies. He wanted basically a different voice, a different style, and yeah, I think I brought that
Okay.
to the table. In terms of, the actual scenes and whatnot, part of it was determined by the story itself, the various points in time, and alternate timeline settings that we needed to hit in order for the story to work, because it is a complicated story, because and this is actually something we have gotten a fair bit of flack for, is that um, you start, and we're telling the reader, hey, the time travel rules are X, and we start by
Hmm.
explaining this and whatnot, but they're not X, they're Y. Because Sysgov thinks the rules work a certain way, and that what they're doing is safe, but they're wrong. They're wrong disastrously, and that is part of the genesis of how the Gordy knot has been able to form, is that they're essentially taking a wrecking ball to the timelines. This is having a cumulative effect. Bad things are happening, and now our heroes need to fix it. So
Okay.
that's
I,
go ahead.
that is just a lot to unpack. But
Complex book.
they
I
never
remember
say time travel is easy.
when it first came
No,
out.
it's not. And one of the things that one of the reasons why I once said I don't ever want to write a time travel novel, and now I've been involved in writing 4 novels that involve some degree of time travel in them. The Janus file and the Velto file. It's certainly not the focus, but it's present. It's there. One of the reasons why I didn't want to deal with it is I have some issues with how time travel is utilized as a literary device, in other properties. And the main thing that kind of takes me out of the story, when I start, thinking about it, the most is when you're dealing with time travel. You're dealing with, most of the time, you're dealing with stuff that can happen asynchronously along a timeline.
Hmm.
So, what is the mechanism that enforces an order of these events? So you have one manipulation at one point, you go back and you change, the past, and then you go back again. Okay, well, what caused that to have a sequence? Because we're dealing with time travel, and we're able to break sequence essentially.
Right.
And some properties handle that very well. Some properties just sort of ignore it. It's like the sequence is determined by the order of the pages, or the order that you're watching. Basically the sequence of events in the movie itself, and that's what your sequence is. And just come along with us for the ride. Um, so one of the things that I wanted to make sure was that we handled that particular issue. And that's where the concept for the true present came about. And so essentially, in this setting, there is a point in the timeline where there is no future. The future hasn't happened yet.
Okay.
And so that point in the timeline is moving forward at 1 second per second. So if you travel back in time from the true present, and you spend a month in the past, and then you come back to the true present, it will be a month later. So
Gotcha.
that essentially gives us a master clock on which to sequence everything else that happens within the setting. Whether we go back into the past, whether we're traveling to a different universe, everything has a master clock. And so that allows us to apply order to chaos,
Gotcha.
essentially.
Wow. Okay. I thought I understood a little bit of time travel. I've watched enough Doctor Who. No, I don't know anything when it comes to time travel. All right. All right.
Yeah,
I need the
living
whiteboard.
with him while he was designing this was exhausting for my brain because physics is a hobby of Jacob's,
Oh, I
and
failed physics.
he tried to make the time travel physics of this setting as realistic as he possibly could. And obviously, there are some little, I guess, conceits you had to give
I
yourself to make it function. But I had to hear so much about the potential physics of how time travel could work. And
I don't know if I would call it realistic. I mean, obviously we have a magic trick.
Hmm.
We
you're
we
not
have our
manipulating a lot, though.
we have our unobtainium. We have the chronoton. It's a made up particle. And we're doing various things with it. But there is a rule set, and David and I,
There's
even if
realistic logic to it, is probably a better way to phrase it.
well, I mean, there is a like one of the things that some people have criticized about the Gordian Protocol, and I said this earlier, is that you guys don't, follow your own rules. It's like, yes, we do.
I
it's
just don't
it's
fully
it's all
understand.
there. Trust us.
Yeah.
Well, I
We are following our own rules. Now, in the first book, the rules are obfuscated. It's very cloudy, but that's what the characters are going through themselves. And a lot of readers pick up on that, and some of them don't. And it's why we get knocked a star or two when they review it. It's like, sorry, it's a complicated book. There's only so much we can do. But the I had a thought, and it just left me.
That's been me all day, so I get it. And also, I apologize to our viewers if the internet starts to tank. I apologize. It's storming out here, so like I'm just watching the frames drop, and I'm just bashing my head against my mic, metaphorically, not physically, because I don't want to, blow your eardrums out.
Well, if you suddenly vanish, we'll continue talking. We can do that.
Well, it's funny because Discord I'm not having any issues with yet. Yet. It's OBS that's tanking right now. So either OBS is just getting overly whelmed or something. I'm not sure. But that's okay.
Well, for some reason, the internet on our end is being weird too, because for some reason the chat will not load for me. So if anyone's trying to tell me anything, just yell it over
It's
the
just
camera.
Zeckler. He said it's okay. I'm here. Stream Elements, and then he just told us we're still good. So thank you, Zeckler. Always got my back, and I appreciate it.
Yeah, but your frame rate looks fine on my end.
Awesome. Thank you. So working for Bain Publishing is pretty cool. Just because there's so many big named authors that work in there.
Oh, yeah.
And a lot of them that I really like.
Yay.
Well, one of the things. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Oh no, you're
there,
good.
but
You're good. You're good.
so Bain as a publisher is the publisher I wanted to work with for 20, 25 years. And the reason why, they were at the top of the list when I, was back in, let's say high school or whatnot, writing novel length stretch. Like it's just trash. Was whenever I would go to the bookstore and I'd see the rocket ship dragon
Mm-hmm.
on a book. Most of the time I would enjoy that book. Other imprints, certainly there were plenty of books I enjoyed, but it was not nearly as consistent as what Bain Books was putting out. It was just consistently enjoyable, engrossing science fiction and fantasy.
Right.
And like one of those authors was David Weber. And David Weber inspired my early writing. And never in a million years did I think that I would, be, not only writing for Bain Books, but writing with one of the guys who inspired me to write.
David, so this is actually my first David Weber novel, just because sci-fi I like, but I prefer more of the sword and fantasy, unless, which is going to bring me into one of my favorite authors that works for Bane, unless that I am reading Star Wars. That is like my favorite
Hmm.
space opera. So of course, when I started looking at Bane's books, I started looking at Timothy Zahn's books
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah.
because I love Timothy Zahn. He
Hmm.
created two of my favorite characters in the Star Wars universe.
Oh yeah.
I want to pick his brain. Be-
Ron and who's the other one?
Mara
I would
Jade.
assume that's who I would have been my first guess for number two.
I to this day, I don't care what anyone says. Oh, she's not canon. She's canon to me.
She's
Okay?
canon.
She is best girl in all of Star Wars. Sorry, Princess Leia. Sorry, Padme. Sorry, Ahsoka Tano. Mara Jade.
She's cool.
She's
Mara
a
Jade is a very cool
badass.
character.
I
Very
just
cool
want to
character.
pick.
Of the Disney stuff. Like I know they've brought back Thrawn, but
Mhm.
has she been anything since Disney has
No.
taken over?
No, she
Oh,
hasn't,
yeah.
and that's because the sequel trilogy kind of robbed us of that. I'm not going to talk smack on the sequel trilogy because I'm not opening that can of worms.
Let's not go
Rule
there.
in our house where like Jacob, there was a period where Jacob was banned from talking about The Last Jedi. I got so tired of it.
And that's fine. We'll have that discussion afterwards. I love Mara Jade. Heir to the Empire, that trilogy is like my favorite books in the Star Wars universe. I have them on Audible. I have the physical copies and I have the original physical copies. I love those books. Whew. They are some of my favorites. When it comes to Thrawn, because Thrawn is my favorite non Jedi character and probably my second favorite character in the Star Wars universe of all time. And it's not because he's a villain or anything, he's brilliant. He's
Yeah.
smart. He makes Darth Vader like question himself.
Yep.
I mean, the second book of the first now canon Thrawn trilogy, where it's during the the Empire and everything. He's essentially trolling Vader because he's like, "Oh, I know who you are. I know you're Anakin Skywalker, but I'm gonna toy with you a little bit." The gall on that man!
Yeah, you know, it's
He's
you
brilliant.
gotta
I love
have
it.
some guts to mess with Darth Vader.
He messes with Palpatine too, which I mean I would too, just because Papa Palps. But so I started looking at his books, and then I have a few of Bane's books sitting on my shelf, and of course in my Audible account. Some of them being the Monster Hunter International series. I have Tim Aker's Night Watch series or book sitting on my shelf. That was actually a recommendation from HP. Indirectly because she posted about it on Facebook, and then of course I have some of your books. I need to get into the Reel. That's like a must-have on my bookshelf. I have it in Audible. I need it on my bookshelf because that book was great.
There's a sequel coming out too, but I forget what
November.
the release date is.
November.
Okay.
I've already looked. I've already looked because it's when I was looking up the release dates for Jacob's books because I wanted to have them here on my screen because right now that's out. We have the Gordian Protocol, which is book 1, Valkyrie Protocol, which is book 2, and then the Janus File. Those are all out. And then the Weltall File comes out on June 6th, which is just right around the corner.
Yep.
And then, Jacob, your solo book in this series, the Dyson File, comes out in November.
Yep. It's a busy year
That
for
is my first
the same day actually
novel.
as Into the Real sequel.
We've got release week buddies. I mean, we always have release week buddies, but people I know personally.
We love release week buddies. But that's a dilemma for me because which one do I read first?
The eternal book dilemma.
Yeah, we it's one of the reasons why Heather and I view reading books and collecting books as two separate hobbies.
Yep.
It is. No, it is. My backlog is massive.
Yep.
But it's actually funny you mentioned Timothy Zahn's what he's written for Bane books, because I have actually been reading through some of his uh, offerings, well, collaborations for Bane, because of a an upcoming project that David and I will be doing. So
Ooh. Ooh.
David, uh, Timothy, and Tom Pope, they've done the Manticore Ascendant novels, of
Okay.
which there are four, and there are two more under contract, so there'll be six total. And that's a prequel series for the Honor Harrington novels. And David and I will be writing a trilogy of set in the Honorverse, basically after the Manticore Ascendant books, the Travis Long novels, and we'll be featuring Edward Saganami, who, if you know anyone viewing this has read the Honor Harrington novels, know him as a very famous figure in the lore of the series, basically the paragon of what it means to be an officer in the Royal Manticoran Navy. So
All right.
I've read
very
a lot of
very
versions.
exciting.
Have several books.
So one thing I'm going to bring up because this show is stats on stats. One of the questions we
Yes.
have is, hey, where are the stat sheets and everything? Where? Well, so this book doesn't have like traditional like stat sheets or anything like that, but it does
There is
have
a
a.
spreadsheet.
It has a spreadsheet. Did I
It
miss the
does.
spreadsheet?
It's not well. It's not published, but and this can be a Jacob thing. Jacob, as you may or may not know, is an engineer and makes spreadsheets for fun. He's the
Okay.
one who did all the stats
I
for
have
this.
I have been known to make
But
spreadsheets for fun. Yes,
I don't do stats at all. I
this
am.
is 100% true.
All
Yep.
right. Well,
But there is.
what I was gonna bring up was with the prison scene in one of the realities. There's the
Hmm.
warden who has them in like a game world, and one
Yeah.
of the guys is talking about, oh, well, she had a dragon wipe the town one time. That was pretty
Hmm.
fun. I was like, there's my game lit. There it is. All right, now we're talking. So, was that one of your ideas or was that one of David's ideas?
Oh, that was 100% me.
Okay,
The
let's talk about that then because dragon attacks, but also
Yeah,
the virtual reality. I love virtual reality stuff, and that's where the sci-fi ness and everything, and that's where we get to bring in the game lit for stats on stats.
well, I mean that is, that aspect, the interaction between the physical and the virtual. So there are essentially three um, general segments to these societies. There are physical, organic human beings.
Mm-hmm.
There are human beings who have transitioned to synthetic bodies. And there are beings, whether they were originally organic or wholly artificial, that are virtual beings, or abstract, as we often term them in the books. And so those three, the fit, organic, synthetic, abstract, um, and the interactions between those three play a pretty big part in the books.
Oh
Now,
yeah.
obviously, if you've got an author like me who is an avid gamer, um, a lot of that is, and I have like an entire segment of the population that exists wholly within essentially virtual reality. Yes, there are going to be games. There are going to be jokes about games. There are going to be Easter eggs about games.
You
And
managed to fit some kind of gaming element in every single one of the Gordian books.
um, did I? I'm trying to remember what I did in Valkyrie.
Well, there's gaming as
Um,
a general like gaming culture because the main
well,
characters they play their equivalent of
oh
D
right,
and that's yeah,
yeah, yeah, because
virtual reality D&D.
in right, because Klaus Wilhelm calls up Rybert and calls them back to work, and they're in the middle of playing basically a sci-fi D&D game, fully immersive D&D game.
Mhm.
Yes.
And they're all in character during the call, and they're talking to their boss. But yeah, so there are a lot of um, basically whenever I see an opportunity to fit in some sort of gaming element, I do, and no one has told me to stop yet.
Please
So
never
I'm just going
stop.
to keep doing.
Please don't stop. We love that.
David hasn't told me to stop. The editors haven't told me to stop. So
David, if you ever
I'm just
watch
gonna.
this, I'm begging you, don't ask him to stop, please. I need the gaming elements. So,
Um,
but I wanted to show off my little collection here just because these are my
Yeah,
Holo. This is my Holo collection as of right
those are
now.
familiar.
So,
You are a reader with good taste.
and it's going to grow this week because I just ordered book 4 in the Titan Mage series because I need to jump on that. Cuz well, so I didn't tell you. I did get my stickers in HP.
Good, good.
They're all on my laptop. So I put all of them on my laptop. So I have Edie Sky artwork and Harmon Cooper artwork on my laptop. It's a good mix.
That's a fabulous laptop.
It is a
Harmon Cooper
fantastic.
was he's the author
there's
with the
there's.
cover I showed you earlier, Jacob. The one we were chatting
Oh,
about on
okay,
Twitter.
yeah,
Oh, the
Yeah.
yeah.
one I shared?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's fantastic.
Oh my god. I if you read any lit RPG book, please read Tokens and Towers. It is
It
one
is
of my
next on
favorite
my
series.
list.
It is so good. I love that book series so much. I think Harmon's probably annoyed with me at this point, but that's okay. I don't care. I love his books.
No.
So one of the places where I was able to. Okay, so you essentially in the Goring Division
Mm-hmm.
series, you essentially have two tracks. You have the protocol books, which are big epic science fiction, existential threats often, and in Gordian Protocol, we have like a dogfight between like 8 heavily armed time machines. In Valkyrie, there's a fleet action involving like 300 time machines and a time traveling battle station that's firing time traveling nuclear tipped missiles. Slight escalation there.
Some
You
Tom
pretty much
Clancy
Um,
stuff right
guarantee
there. We
that
love it.
at least one
but
universe is gonna die in a protocol book in general.
um, we'll have to see, because book 6 is also a protocol book. I don't want to drop any spoilers. There's certainly the stakes are high, and the canvas is large.
Okay.
The file books are intentionally much more tightly focused, and more intimate stories. So the Janus file is at its heart a murder mystery.
Okay.
Um, and the Veltal file is, along the same lines. But in that case, the murder hasn't happened yet, and they're trying to prevent the murder. So there's a threat of murder
So
that
is it
hangs over.
does the Janus file give off more of like a sci-fi noir book or
It is, it is a detective story.
okay.
It is, sci-fi murder mystery with a dash of time travel.
Okay.
Wouldn't say
Now,
like the dark and
the
brooding noir, but it's definitely police procedural mystery. Um,
now the Veltal file, and so where most of the novel takes place is at essentially a futuristic esports tournament.
Okay.
So there is Veltal is the game that that is being played at this tournament. Hence the title of the book, and it is I don't know. There's probably some um, StarCraft 2, Master of Orion influences flying around in my head. Sins of a Solar Empire might be mixed in there as well. Um, but yeah, it's they're essentially one of the players, one of the visiting players, is she has received a death threat. And the form this death threat has taken is essentially a 3D printed copy of her head, her severed head, on a platter with the words written in fake blood, leave or die. And that's essentially where that book starts off.
Yeah. It's especially rough. It's an especially rough threat, though, because Jacob, you keep forgetting to say the coolest thing about this tournament. So, in the setting, you've got Siskov and you've got the admin, and they're two universes that are not necessarily friendly with each other. What with Siskov basically trying to get rid of the admin to save all the other universes,
Hmm.
but in the protocol, not the protocol, in the file books, you've basically reached a point where the two universes are kind of sort of trying to extend some olive branches,
Okay.
and one of the ways that they do it is to try to cooperate on various things. And this tournament that is taking place is the first sort of cross universe tournament. So you've got competitors from two different universes in it. And the thing is, it's set in the tournament is taking place in Siskov, but the person who has received the threat is from the admin. So it's not just a death threat, it is a potential like political situation. And so it's it's
It could
it is
blow
a death
up
threat, but it's
to
got a lot of tears to it.
yeah the this simple quote unquote simple murder threat can could potentially escalate to uh, trans-dimensional proportions.
It's, so it is smaller stakes than protocol, but still not small stakes.
So,
Ah.
if someone were to want to dive into this these series, do they need to start with the Gordian Protocol, or could they hop right into the Janus File? Like, do these each stand out on their own, or
So, so each of the books, we have, David and I have went in trying to, make them as standalone as possible. Certainly, any reader who starts with the Gordian Protocol and goes, works their way through from there will, in general, have a richer reading experience, but it is not necessary.
okay,
If someone, likes the idea of a sci-fi police procedural with some time travel thrown into it. We've set up the Janus file to be accessible. Um, actually, readers can start with the Velto file as well. I would say that probably the one that uh, stands the least on its own is probably the Valkyrie protocol,
hmm,
I'd say that.
um, because while you can go in and just read that book, I think that Gordian and Valkyrie work best as kind of a two-parter.
okay,
The thing
because
that I like about the series is that each branch kind of has a different vibe too. Like I feel like with Gordian and Valkyrie, my brain has to be on, and I have to be actively wanting to read something that demands my attention and makes me think. Whereas Janus and Veltal, they're certainly books that keep your attention and make you think, but they're much more relaxed, and it's more of a um, let's traipse through this far future strange culture and see all these weird details about it. They're much more leisurely reads. Um and so it's like the Gordian and Valkyrie are ones that you read if you want a challenge, and Janus and Veltal are ones that you read if you just want to chill,
okay,
kind of.
because I was the reason I was asking was because I've not read the Janus file yet, just because I had read the Gordian Protocol,
Mhm.
but I cannot for the life of me find a copy of the Valkyrie Protocol. So I didn't want to start that without, but I'll probably start that actually tonight instead of diving into tokens and towers, just because I want to know what's going on. I like this series. It's really fun. Or else I wouldn't really be talking about it on the show.
Well, thank you. I
So,
mean, you have, like there is kind of, a difference in tone, where, you have, a scene in, say, like, the Gordian Protocol where, a character's mind is forcibly extracted from his body, and then his organic body is mulched and recycled. And so that's like something that the main character there has to go through, whereas,
He has it.
something that, could happen and does happen in, the Janus file is that, the two lead detectives, Isaac and Susan, they have to, remote into what is essentially a futuristic Minecraft server, and they keep getting spawn killed, and they're having to deal with that as a problem.
I
okay.
remember
Um,
you writing that. That was so fun. And you watching all of the server is based on the 2B2T Minecraft server, which is uh, Jacob can talk more about it because you actually remember more about it. I just remember that it had history videos on YouTube that I had to hear him listen to for like 2 weeks.
well, I was just sort of fascinated by this, the stories of this anarchy server that had been running for so long, and you see pictures of it, and it's just this wasteland of just mangled terrain and all this manipulation, player manipulation on top of player manipulation, and, going over these like periods in the server's history where different factions would, fight each other, and I was like, you know what, I can totally, take some of this history and co-opt it for for a setting in the Janus file. So, and that's actually, okay. So
Is
one of
this
the
the scene
things
you
that,
managed to fit the giant robot in too?
yes,
Sorry.
yes, it is. They so they're So Isaac and Susan, they have to get to this one part of the server's, virtual landscape, and so they can get in legitly at essentially central spawn, and so then they need to virtually, get to a location, and at this location they think they'll be able to, get some information that's relevant to the case. Um, and the locals are not friendly. So they keep showing up, and they keep getting, spawn killed over and over again, and they're spending all this money buying, upgrade gear, and they lose the upgrade gear every time they get killed, and they keep trying over and over again. It's just not working. And so at a certain point, Isaac, who's the more, um, by the book of the two,
Hmm.
it's like, okay, well, we can just, go about this. We can, in an official capacity, we can, get a search warrant, and we can go through that process. And yeah, let's just, we've wasted enough time here. And Susan, who is more of the, out of the box, thinker, and also the one who's more used to just blowing up her problems.
Yeah.
It's like, how about we, essentially suggest that they cheat. And what this, ends up being is that they import an asset, from another game into, the server, the realm builder, which is the fictional it's the kind of Minecraft
Hmm.
analog in this setting. And what they import is a giant robot. And the sniper rifles and rocket launchers that these people that have been spawn killing them, it's not really up to snuff to take them on. Take on this, you know, I don't think I actually describe it how tall it is, but I think it's like 12 stories tall.
That's a big old robot.
Um,
That's a mech.
yeah,
That,
yeah,
that's a
and
big boy.
yeah, and um, but yeah, and then the what is it the other side decides to cheat too, so they summon a kaiju to fight them.
Good lord.
Yeah, that sort of thing doesn't happen in a protocol book. Or at least not without good justification.
It has tighter rules for that sort of nonsense.
Well, and there are tonal differences,
Hmm.
and there are like I said, the stakes are bigger, and so that kind of guides the tone as well. So there is while Isaac and Susan are dealing with trying to find out who murdered these two top eight agents of the Gordian division. Um, they, uh, they get into some fun trouble here and there.
I mean, so the Gordian Protocol it's a wild book. If
Oh,
anyone's looking to get in, it's a wild book. It's a little bit of a slow burn for I would say probably about the first hour, but like it does pick up, and it was honestly a nice like change of pace for me because I'm usually listening to something that is straight out the gate, balls to the walls action.
Mhm.
This was a nice break in that, and it got me a little bit out of my lit RPG like fix where I go through and I power through like 20 to 30 lit RPG books, and I'm like, okay, I need a break. And normally
hmm.
Mhm.
that's when I go to Star Wars. No, I went to the Gordian Protocol this time, and it was good. It was really good. But we are going to talk about another project that you guys have kind of worked on together because we've gotten to talk to HP a little bit about it when we had her on the show the
Hmm.
first
Mhm.
time. But I'm just gonna grab this. Let's talk a little Monster Punk real quick while we got a little bit of
Yeah.
time.
Mhm.
What was your experience like working on the Monster Punk Horizon series?
So, um, while after Heather had written the first draft of the first Monster Punk book,
Mm-hmm.
so both we edit each other's work. We act as sounding boards for ideas, and so naturally she gave the manuscript to me, and I went through and I did a hard edit pass, and I gave it back to her, and then said, this is really fun. This is a really fun setting. You mind if I write something in it? Like, oh, sure, go right ahead. So I was between projects, and next thing I know, or next thing she knows, I'm handing her like I don't know 40, 50,000 words. Like here, I wrote this. um, and she added a number of things to it, but she, I I had written my portion of the third book before she was done with the first book.
Yep.
Oh
Um,
wow.
yeah, yeah. And so, she finished up the first book, and then she wrote the second book and editing the second book, and then she eventually, gets to working on the third book. And as she was editing it, there was a character, and was it Dwayne?
Yeah, it was Dwayne. I remember
Okay,
this.
and she comes to me and says that there's a problem with how you portrayed Dwayne. The character voice is not consistent with book two. And I'm like, Heather, there was no book two when I wrote this.
Where was this book too?
Feel free to adjust the character's voice however you feel is appropriate. So yeah, that happened a bit out of order. Um, but I mean the two characters, Pix and Jazz, are to a certain degree inspired by our um, Monster Hunter, Capcom Monster Hunter
Official
characters.
Monster Hunter.
Which Monster Hunter we're talking about in this house, because it's either Capcom or it's the Larry Correa series, and sometimes we get them confused, and we have to.
So we have to specify
So we have
there.
Bone Weapon Monster Hunter, and then we have Supernatural Monster Hunter.
Yes.
Villain Monster Hunter.
Which I am a fan of both of them. So, which actually Joel is the one who got me. Joel's my co-host. He sadly couldn't be here with us tonight because sci-fi is not his forte. So I was like, oh, I'll take the lead on this one. I like my sci-fi stuff. He got me into the Monster Hunter International series, and I was like, oh.
They're very fun books.
And there was a bookstore out in Colorado, even though we already have them all on Audible, that had the paperback books for all the Monster Hunter books. And I think, which one is it? Is it Bloodlines? It's the one that's got the succubus girl on the front.
Bloodlines with the succubus. Yep.
It had that one in hardback. And this is where I rebuilt my Star Wars collection too. They had all the books for like $250 because it's a used bookstore and everything. So people bring their books in and stuff. I was like, oh, I'm just gonna take these, and I got the hardback I think for like $7, and I was like, I'm not gonna beat that. I'm just not gonna beat that.
So funny story that I heard about the Bloodlines cover, and I believe it's Bloodlines, the one that has the succubus character on it. So if I remember correctly, Larry was talking to the artist, and they were kind of going back and forth about what to put on the cover, and Larry was still working on the book at that point. And so it's like, well, hey, what would you like to what kind of thing what kind of monster do you want to do? And so the artist, and I'm not sure which artist does these covers, but he said to Larry, he's like, I'd like to do like a hot demon chick, something along those lines. And Larry's like, I've got you covered. and so apparently that character's involvement in the book increased after that conversation where the artist is like, it's hot demon babe.
It's so cool though. And it's a good series. And Joel was he was so giddy because, and I think it's one of the more recent books. I can't remember if it's the newest book or the one before it. They're in Atlanta, Georgia, and Dragon Con's happening. And he goes, oh yeah, that was this weekend. And I'm just like, that's going to be us at Dragon Con this year. Oh boy. So, woo. Oh. Yeah, no, we're I love bot accounts that come in and spam the chat. Zeckler, you know what to do. He missed the last one.
Is still not showing up, so I don't know.
Zeckler did say Monster Hunter win, or Monster Punk win, because I was getting, to the point of Monster Punk. But that does leave us to the next question, because hey, HP.
Uh-huh.
HP. When are we getting the next book?
Well, I got to finish the last book in Titan Mage, and then my next project is set to be Monster Punk 4. So there's some stuff going on in the background that may change my my writing schedule. It's secret stuff that I can't talk about right now.
It's not
So,
me recommending all these lit RPG books,
Well, I mean,
oh man,
we can mention a little bit
what can
of
we
it.
mention? What can we mention?
Well,
I lose track of what I'm allowed to say.
Oh yeah,
Jacob, you
don't
said
ever give me stuff where you're like, hey, you're not allowed to say this because sorry.
you
so
news, Jacob. That way, I make sure just the right amount comes out.
all right. So Heather and I, we were up in Raleigh, North Carolina recently for a convention called Fantasy.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the cool things about this convention is that it's very close, situated very close to the Baen Books editorial office.
Okay.
So, when we went there before the con got going, we went and stopped by the editorial office and, said hi and, they fed us breakfast and, um, part of the thing about a con like that is it's sort of like an extended business meeting in a lot of ways, in dealing, talking to, various authors and editors and whatnot. So uh, Tony Weisskopf, the publisher, steps in, and one of the newer members of the Baen team, Jason Cordova, basically sits Heather in front of Tony, and what ensues is a discussion about a potential future project.
Ooh.
And at the end of that, Tony said, "I am interested. Put together a formal proposal."
Yep.
So after Heather is done with Titan Mage Apocalypse, she then has to finish her project proposal.
Yep.
for Baen,
Yeah.
and then she can work
Yeah.
You know what?
on other stuff.
It's gonna be worth the wait. I
Yeah.
have waited almost, what am I? I think I'm at 2.5 years for a book in another series. So
Oh yeah,
I
there's
I can wait.
my goals. Like I don't want to have any series left hanging open for too long because I mean it's frankly a lot of sci-fi and fantasy readers have been burned by a lot of series, especially Song of Fire and Ice and especially
Yeah,
Name of the Wind.
George.
And it's like yeah, and it's actually a legitimate problem because there are a lot of readers now who will not pick up series until they're complete,
Mm-hmm.
which I totally get as a reader, but it also means that series that get started don't get finished because people aren't buying them. Like it is a legit problem amongst authors right now. And one of my things is I fully understand where readers are coming from in that respect, and it's one of the reasons why I want to have all my series finished at some point. So I'm definitely going to finish Monster Punk Horizon in some form. Monster Punk Horizon is weird because it doesn't have an overarching plot necessarily. I mean,
It's
obviously
just killing monsters and we love it.
yeah, they fight different forms of the Screecher, and that's basically like eventually the Screecher's going to run out of elements to reincarnate as, and that will be that end. But it's kind of it's kind of like Discworld in that respect, in that the only thing that stopped Discworld was Terry Pratchett died.
Yeah.
Terry or Monster Punk could easily be that kind of series for me, like it just runs on forever. But I do know that readers tend to like overarching plots, and so I do have plans for little
Hey, we
mini
have the
plots.
isekai. Like that's a plot. Like,
Yeah, and I
and also
also
Zekler said you can finish it on book 22. It's fine.
yeah,
We could take 22 books of that.
it's a really fun series, so I want it to run as long as possible. But I'm also thinking about actually starting a Monster Punk series under my Edie Sky name, because Monster
Yes.
Girls just seem like a really natural
Yes.
thing. And
Yes.
it's one of the ideas that I've been throwing around, and it all kind of hinges upon I've got to get the core of the proposal Jacob mentioned is finished. I've got to write the first 3 chapters of the proposed book to tag on to my proposal, and so that's technically my first project after I finish Apocalypse. But then it's Monster Punk because I just got to get back to the Monster Punk world. It's so relaxing to write in,
It's
and I
such
have
a
not had a relaxing project since Titan Mage Dragon came out. Every
Don't you
single book.
love Titan Mage though.
Oh,
don't you
Titan
have a short
Mage.
story you need to write too?
Do what?
Don't you have a short story you
Oh
need
yeah,
to
I
write
have a short
also?
story I need to write too. So yeah, I got stuff. But
Another
yeah,
short story?
yeah, which is also it's there's I got stuff to do. Oh my gosh. But
Well,
yeah, Titan Age, and I know this is a Jacob story, so or this is a Jacob podcast, so tell me to shut up if you need to. But the past several Titan Mage books have been nuts because when I write, I've gotten to the point in my writing where I know how I know how many high quality words I can write in a month. And when I first started Titan Mage, I had budgeted 3 month a book every 3 months, allowing myself to write 40,000 words a month, and then have like so write for 2 months for an 80,000 word book, and then have a month to do editing and packaging and all that stuff. Well, when Titan Mage 3 came out, I started having a whole lot of fun with the world, or when I was writing it, that is. And it ballooned to 120,000 words, which is a real pain to edit when you're on a 3 month schedule. And then the same thing happened with Rising, and now it's
Oh, no, no, wait.
wait, what?
Let's get to the best part.
What?
there's
Okay.
four.
So, while
Oh yeah.
so who basically had what 2 weeks to edit
Yeah, while I was
your
writing,
book that went
let me finish, Jacob. So
okay.
while I was writing Titan Mage Dragon, Jacob had two different surgeries. He's also my editor. So while he was recovering from
Wrist and elbow
an
surgeries.
elbow surgery, so he couldn't use his hands to type. He was also teaching himself how to use Dragon Naturally Speaking so that he could dictate his own stuff. But then he also was editing Dragon 2 weeks before its release date without use of his hands. And it's
And for those who don't
and
know, this is Dragon.
yeah,
It's a
Dragon
thick boy.
is a big girl. And then I told myself, it's really nice to know that I can write 120,000 words in 3 months, but we're not doing that again. And then I did it again with Rising, which Rising was only it was 100,000, 100. It wasn't really,
110.
huh? 110.
110.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah, you
Yeah.
went 30,000 over.
Yeah. So and
So
now
Rising's
so
book 4,
what
right?
what I told her
yeah, Rising is book 4.
Okay.
So
what,
and readers
what
have no problem with them being that long,
No.
but Apocalypse is looking to be about that long too. I'm only about 40,000 words in at this point, I want to say. But yeah, it's I'm finding ways to economize near the
Also,
end, and it's epic. But I'm like I'm having to rethink my writing schedule because there's no way I can keep up this pace and still keep up good quality with 3 months release. So what I'm either going to do is move to 4 month releases, or quote unquote don't go dark for a year and just write the novels slowly and post them to Patreon. And then once I have a little backlog, then start releasing them to Amazon. So people who want to read them as I finish them can subscribe to Patreon, but then people who want the finished polished version can get it on Amazon like 6 months later or something. So that's all up in the air, though, depending upon how the book proposal goes. So
well,
so
yeah,
I was gonna say
the other
Oh, go ahead, Jacob.
go ahead. So the other thing that so I'm working on editing Titan Mage Dragon. I've had wrist and elbow surgery. I am not in a great state, and after I was done paring it down a little bit and smoothing it out. And when I go through Heather's books, I do pretty hard edits.
oh yeah,
Um, you know, it, it's pretty close to the level of intensity of that when I go through something before I pass it over to David for his first look. And so what I told Heather is that this is a fantastic book. This is one of the best, if not the best, thing you've ever written. don't ever do this again. Uh, and then she did it again.
Yep.
And unfortunately, I was going through uh, I had had a relapse of chronic nerve pain that
Ooh.
I was going through. So while I was going through that and dealing with brain fog, because of the intensity of the pain, I was also editing her book. And neither of the last two books were enjoyable editing experiences for me, unfortunately.
I got done.
But on
Hopefully,
the
you won't be in any pain while editing Apocalypse.
I
plus
hope
side,
not.
the audiobook for Titan Mage Dragon comes out on the 3rd, which is this coming Wednesday. And what's
Yeah,
already pre-ordered on my list? That exactly, because
that one
I
is
need
late
it.
for a hilarious reason. And well, I guess hilarious is the wrong word, but one of the narrators had a baby, like went into labor like with 4 chapters to go, and but Deacon Frost phrased it the most perfect way, which was that the Titan Mage series is so hot it got one of the narrators pregnant.
It's true. It's
Yeah.
true. Also, shout out to Deacon. We love you, Deacon.
Yes.
But the audiobook is 13 hours and 33 minutes.
Ooh,
Yeah,
it's huge.
yeah.
That
I
is
hadn't even looked at the runtime. Like I knew it was going to be long.
that is like the perfect time because a lot of like lit RPGs books and everything have been like 20 plus hours.
Yeah,
And I like longer books like that. But sometimes
it's
anything
too
under
much.
15 hours is a nice break
Yeah.
because when you have something that's 20 plus hours and there's like I don't know 9 books in that series,
Mm-hmm.
it all kind of runs together.
We've been listening to Legends and Lattes, and
Cover book.
we knocked out most of it on our way to Fantasy, and it was so nice to be able to knock out most of an audiobook in one road trip. And I think we've got like 2 hours left, maybe,
So,
but
Yeah.
it's
so
so short and
as of right now, Joel and I are driving down to Dragon Con.
nice.
And we're going to have a third member in the car
Uh-huh.
because one of my favorite narrators and also mentor, Mr. Zach Johnson, is going to be flying into where I live, my state. I'm going up to the airport to pick him up, and
Uh-huh.
then we're all crashing at my place for the night and then leaving at 3 a.m. And not only are we trying to figure out which audiobook to listen to in the car, we're going to be recording an episode of Stats on Stats in the car on our way
Okay.
to Dragon Con. Oh no. You want
That's
manic chaos? Me behind the wheel recording is not a good idea, but we love it and we're going to go for it. Is that
do
going to be
it.
a special released episode? We don't know yet. But we're going to
No.
be dealing with a lot.
Oh yeah. I kind of regret that we're not going to Dragon Con this year.
I
Everyone
don't.
either. Dragon Con is exhausting. Yeah, Jacob, the past several Dragon Cons we've been to, Jacob has been dealing with nerve pain.
Oh
And
no.
at Dragon Con, like Dragon Con is exhausting even when you're in perfect health. And we've been like, you know what, until we get through this pain with walking stuff, we're just not gonna do Dragon Con. So we do little cons where we can sit a lot and not want to flop over at the end of the day.
This is my first Dragon Con, and I'm excited. Joel and his fiance have gone the past few years, but like this.
Bring snacks and take naps.
Oh no, naps are gonna be like a necessity for like a 30-minute snoozer. Like I'm just gonna put my headphones in, kick my head back, but also. One of my cosplays is Randy Lionheart from the Tokens and Towers series, so I'm gonna have a hamster hat on almost the entire time.
Perfect.
I'm gonna be burning, and it's gonna be hot, and I'm gonna look good in that.
Oh yeah.
So it's gonna be
Stay
awesome.
hydrated too. The very first time I
Oh, we
went to
will
Dragon,
with alcohol.
huh?
We will with alcohol. That is
I
our
don't know
hydration.
how that's going to work out for you, though.
Water. The very first time I went, I decided to go big, and I cosplayed Kara Sloan from the War Machine miniatures game, like
Ooh.
half body armor. I did not put any vents or fans in that, and we walked from our hotel to Dragon Con, and the moment we got to Dragon Con, I passed out. Like, so
Oh
stay
no.
hydrated.
Oh no. I have a water bottle, and if anything, my dad, who is ex-military, has his camel sack that he
Mm,
used overseas. So
bring
yeah,
that. Yeah.
Jacob, we have
You've
one
really
last
seen
question for
that.
you though.
All
Yes.
right.
Mr. Zeckler, our bestest buddy and bestest mod in the chat said, "Are these more hard sci-fi or soft sci-fi books?"
They lean more hard sci-fi.
Okay.
So the there are very few magic tricks or cheats involved. One of them is of course the time travel. So you have the mechanism for that. You also have one of the societies, Sysgov, has artificial gravity. Um, but other than those two, we try to keep things pretty much as physics allow. Um, and um, yeah, so hard-ish sci-fi, hard sci-fi, but with I actually originally my intention when I laid out the two societies was for the time travel to be the only magic trick.
Okay.
Um, and then David wrote the first few chapters, and I got that back, and I'm like, oh, I guess Sysgov has countergrav propulsion. Okay, well, I'll just fix my background sheets and add that, and it actually it works out very well in the Gordian protocol because it helps differentiate. Sysgov is supposed to be more advanced, and that's having one faction have artificial gravity whereas the other one doesn't is an easy way to kind of show that difference in sophistication to the reader. Whereas they're in on the TTV Clio, they're able to you know just walk around just fine. Whereas in on one of the chronoports of the admin, they're floating down the hall and they're strapping in. So stuff like that.
Okay.
Well, we are getting to the end of our show. So we like to do this little game of, hey, where can people find you? But first, before we do that, Jacob, have you been reading anything recently that you'd like to give a shout out to?
Um, yeah, actually, I have. I recently read This Immortal,
Okay.
which is a classic Roger Zelazny novel. I believe it's actually his first novel published, and it's pretty cool. It deals with the main character Conrad. He's he basically has to take a visiting alien dignitary on a tour of uh, essentially a ruined Earth, which is essentially is now a tourist attraction.
Okay.
And like one of the and there's things going on in the background that make this like there's plots to kill various characters going on in the background. But one of the scenes that stands out to me is that they go to the pyramids,
Okay.
and when they finally get there, the pyramids are being dismantled, and the the whole crowd they're just absolutely incensed about this, and Conrad's like, they ask, for an explanation. It's like, well, a lot of the building materials around here, they glow in the dark. So, and there's just all this, great, rock, so, they're just taking it,
All right.
using that to, and in this setting, there's like 4 million people still living on the earth. And so like they asked Conrad, it's like, don't they need approval for this? It's like, oh yeah, they need approval from, you know, the I forget exactly what it is, but some sort of, monuments and antiquities department. It's like, wait, Conrad, that's the department you work for. It's like, yeah, I did approve it. And the alien who's he's like, I literally traveled from another star system to see the pyramids. And Conrad just says, well, look now, because they're going fast.
Oh, actually, I have to check that out. That actually sounds pretty interesting. But
I've got to read it too. But
so we HP, we said his name a few too many times because Deacon Frost has joined the chat. Deacon, welcome in. Sadly, this is towards the end of the episode, but you'll be able to catch the VOD. And if you have any questions, just shoot me a message. I'll catch you up. But hey, HP, what you been reading?
okay, I've got a pile. I just pulled up my Kindle. So the main one I've been working on right now is Cordelia's Honor
Okay.
by Lois McMaster Bujold. It's basically a prequel to the Miles Vorkosigan military sci-fi series, and I'm reading it primarily for research on how to write sci-fi romance, essentially. But it's great. It's this perfect combination of really thoughtful, hard sci-fi with some romantic sweetness and complications going on. So it's great. But I'm also reading It Came from the Trailer Park Volume 1, which is basically an anthology of redneck sci-fi and fantasy, and it is fantastic.
Okay.
Yeah, it's an anthology put together by a bunch of author pals that I have, and I've been invited to contribute to like the past 2 volumes, and the timing has just never worked out. And so I am really, really hoping to write a monster punk story that somehow fits in this anthology, in the 3rd volume of this anthology, which I
In
think the
your
deadline
copious
is like
amounts of
sometime in
free
July.
time.
But yeah, so It Came from the Trailer Park is great. What
Okay.
else? Let's see here. I've got like all the Titan mages on here because I use them. I put them on my Kindle for reference. Um, I have started Magic Steampunk Pirate Booty by Grady Sparks,
I
which
see you share that on Facebook all the time, and I'm like, I need to check this out.
read the novel yet. Like I'm like a page into it, but there's a little short story on Grady's website that is set in the universe, and oh my gosh, it is hilarious. It's one of the best harem things I've ever read.
Okay.
Let's see. I just finished Sword of the South by David Weber. We read a lot of Weber in this house, as you can guess. And
Yeah.
I feel like I've read some
I've been reading a lot of Weber recently.
but yeah, that's my pile right now.
All right.
So
So for me, I of course the Gordian Protocol was on the top of my list. I just started Tokens and Towers Volume 3 because
I'll be reading that next.
oh god.
But yeah.
I just listened to the audio of the Station Company Core Detain and Extract Monster Hunter Interns by Stephen Landry and Jeffrey Loge. I'm bad at pronouncing names. I'm gonna go ahead and say it. The World of Willcraft by Magnus Reed. It's a harem series with, of course, World of Warcraft inspired stuff. It's phenomenal. I read the first 2 books of that. If I go over to my Audible account, let's look and see really quickly. I did power through Star Wars Light of the Jedi, which is the first book in the High Republic series. Eh. It was a slow burn. It was all over the place. I didn't care for it, but I did start The Rising Storm, which is the sequel to that one, and that one was fantastic. Oh boy. I actually had a conversation with my buddy Hunter the other night because we were trying to I was keeping him distracted while he was waiting for Jedi Survivor to drop. and we talked about Star Wars constantly and everything. Hi, Nova, just chilling in the back. So,
She she's making noises, but I don't know if they're picking up.
and then of course I just did a re-listen of the first two Tokens and Towers books just to get ready. Which if you're gonna do anything for the Token series, listen to them because Daniel Wisniewski and Rebecca Woods is a killer combo, and I will die
Oh,
on
it's
that
a
hill.
dual narration. Yes.
It's great. Um, huh. Also, I believe Timothy Zahn was talking with Star Wars to make sure that they keep Thrawn correct in the Ahsoka series. I'm not 100% sure. That's just an article I read. Don't
Let's
hold
hope
that
so.
against me. I hope so. I want to pick the man's brain. I need to get him on the show. That's my goal is to reach out to Tim and be like, "Hey, I want to talk."
Well, David Weber knows him, so we
Star
might
Wars.
be able to. We'll have to ask. We'll have to see.
I will cry. You will see me cry live on Stats if I talk to the man who created two of my favorite characters in Star Wars and wrote some of my favorite books. I will cry. So, but that's kind of where I'm at. Of course, my to be read pile keeps growing because Blight Leech by Ben Ormsted comes out tomorrow, which takes place in the Apocosmos series. Let's see what else. We have Titan Mage, the audio coming out on the 3rd. Tokens and Towers just dropped today. I ordered Titan Mage 4 and the Blight Leech. So I don't have a library. I have a giant to be read pile. That's just my library.
We have a literal 4-foot by 4-foot coffee table that is 2 feet tall with books we have to read. We have a literal
shelf
pile.
because I was trying to reread the entirety of the Percy Jackson series.
Ooh, that's an endeavor. That's a lot of books.
It's 5 books in the main series because the 6th book is coming out
I'm thinking about
September. But I was going into the Heroes of Olympus and the Trials of Apollo and the Magnus and the Gods of Asgard because if you give me Norse mythology in a book, oh, you bet your butt I'm gonna read it. So, but that's kind of what my previous endeavors have really been. Oh, and I caught up on the Eternal Dominion series by Bern Dean because I'd been slacking and I needed to catch up. So now I'm awaiting for book 18, which comes out tomorrow. Crap, it comes out tomorrow.
I'm often just listening to your reading list. That's a lot of reading.
My ADHD does not like it, but it is fine. So, yeah. That's kind of where I'm at. But now we get to play a fun game of, hey, where can people find you? So, Mr. Holo, where can people find you on the social media aspects?
On social media.
Or internet in general.
Well, finding me or finding my books, because if you're looking for me on social media, you're probably gonna have a better luck searching for my wife.
Finding your books. How about that? We'll go with finding your books.
Yeah. So Amazon, Barnes and Noble, the Gorgon Division series. It's published by Baen Books. So, and a lot of the books are either are or coming out in hardcover before they come out in the mass market. Yep, anywhere that finds science fiction fantasy is sold.
Which, correct me if I'm wrong, right now Barnes & Nobles is running a promotion where you can get 25% off pre-orders?
Friday night. So or early Saturday or something. So that's no longer running.
Dang it.
Yeah.
Dang it.
It was a very short promotion, or at least I noticed it right toward the end. But yeah, we also have holowriting.com is where we centralize all our stuff. Social media wise, I run all our social media stuff. Like Jacob hasn't been on Facebook in 10 years. So, but you can find us.
I was on Facebook a few months ago.
Yeah, but to order a comic, that doesn't count.
It counts to me.
But yeah, we're on Facebook as Holo Writing. We are on YouTube as Holo Writing. Where else are we? Instagram.
I was gonna say
You
I've
can
caught a couple of the live streams, so
yeah. You can find us like on Twitter just as HP Hollow Author, but I post for both of us on Twitter. And where else? I can't remember. If you're on a social media thing, just type in Hollow Writing, and if we're there, we'll pop up. We try to use the same tag across all social media, so make it easy.
and also Edie Sky. You can find Edie Sky on Twitter as well.
Yes. Yeah, Edie Sky Author for everything Edie Sky. Instagram, Facebook, Twitter.
The worst kept history in the writing industry.
Well, I was initially like going to keep it a secret, and then I was like, you know what? People are going to see me selling these books at cons and draw conclusions very easily. And also, I'm really terrible at keeping secrets, so let's just lean into it.
Hey, honestly, I didn't realize it until Zeckler told me. So he was like, "Oh yeah, by the way, Titan Mage, that's HP's work." I was like, "No, it's Edie's guy." He goes, "Dude, that Edie is HP." I was like, "Oh, that makes that checks out."
It's really funny though how both of my audiences have started overlapping, because I went to my Amazon author page and looked to see what other authors people who read HP Hollow are reading. Everybody who reads HP Hollow is apparently reading a whole lot of harem also.
We like harem. This is a kink shame free zone.
So you want to hear? I know you're wanting to finish up the stream. But
no. I'm fine with keep going. Let's go.
All right. So Titan Mage.
Mm-hmm.
There's a little bit more to Edie Sky than just HP. I am Edie Sky's editor plus.
Yep.
Okay.
Outlines are basically.
So I actually outlined all 5 books.
Yep.
And I designed the mechs, and I designed the magic system.
Yep.
All right.
And one of the things that one of the reasons this came about is that Heather went through a period where she was really struggling to write.
Mm-hmm.
And this was like 5 years, and she had produced, and this is when she was trying to write the sequel to The Wizard's Way.
Yeah, my very
which I had to step in and basically force that book over the finish line.
I think we've talked about this when you were on the show the first time.
Yeah.
And so she was struggling with that book for about 5 years, and she had produced about 180,000 words, and most of it was unusable.
Oh yeah,
unfortunately,
it was a trash heap.
Yeah. And I had tried to wrangle it a few times, and there was no wrangling it. So with the and then we had the OCD diagnosed. We had a lot of good success with the treatment. Mm-hmm. And then she went on and she wrote the Monster Punk, the 2 1/3 books there. And then we had talked about workflow and whatnot, and it's like I had the idea, and this was like while she was working on Monster Punk, had the idea for me to outline stuff for her and for her to do the writing, and the advantage there is that if she had like a world building question or whatnot, she could come to me, I could answer it, and she could then press forward very easily
without having to think too much about the world building and muddle myself up, basically.
Yeah, that's fair.
And so and then at the same time we're like looking at also bots for our books, and we're just seeing a whole bunch of harem.
Yep.
And it's like, you know what? We're just writing the wrong books.
and
so it's like Heather basically said,
we were specifically seeing harem books on your giant robot series, which is not
So
spicy at all.
and then we're like, okay, well,
There's an untapped market
the if
here.
you look at a Venn diagram for who enjoys mecha and who enjoys hot ladies, it's almost a
It's a
circle.
circle.
There of course is some crescents on either side where they do not overlap, but it's I think mostly if you
It's.
enjoy one, you
I was gonna
enjoy
say, is
the
it
other.
like it's like about the about
Yep.
that?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. It's
like that little gap right
so
there.
so then came the idea to hey do mecha harem,
Okay.
and
It was a
so
successful experiment.
yes it was I mean successful to the point where last three of her last four releases hit #1 on Steampunk,
They
Yep.
did.
Kindle.
Which just blows my
Um,
mind still. Like,
and the other one hit #2, and I think there was that release week there was another big
yeah, there was
another
another
heavy
big
hitter in
senior
Steampunk that
harem
released
release
the
or
same
something.
week.
Yeah.
Well, and also
Um,
the pre-orders, like without even having the artwork up, like have been hitting goals and everything.
Yeah.
yeah, it's
Astonishing.
like with Apocalypse, I think you had already hit about a third of the previous book's pre-orders with no cover. It's
That cover
like
ended up being
what
worth the wait too,
what
because
is going on here?
it was later than expected. And the funniest thing was when I contacted the illustrator to see what was up, he basically said he was having so much fun with it, he kept adding more and more detail. And so I was like, that's a perfectly good reason to be late. And seeing the fifth cover, like, oh my gosh, it's the best one. Like, it's absolutely the best one in the series. So I was totally cool with that wait.
So there have been, a few places along, as she's been working on the series and as she's come up with ideas where I've had to sort of step in and say, I don't know about that.
Yeah, I think we had to cut
Um,
a chapter from Rising, I think, because of that. Because there's,
that
well,
that,
it's
that was that
spoilery,
was
but
probably the
something
largest,
went wild, and I had to cut it. But
and
related to
because I basically what most of the time, when I see an issue, we can kind of massage it and maintain kind of the spirit of what she wanted to add without plopping in a whole bunch of pitfalls for primarily her at this point, though. I mean, you know uh, us her with the series moving forward.
Right.
But with that particular scene, I'm like, and also I didn't have a lot of time, and I was dealing with nerve pain induced brain fog at the time. It's like
Mm.
I am not in a state where I can take this and make it um, a scene that's not going to cause you problems in the future. And so I recommended that she
yeah.
cut that scene or two. And also, it was like, okay, this is the whole section I don't have to edit. And I mean, I was literally like, while I was working on that book, it felt like my head was on fire.
Mhm.
Uh, it was not. I was not in a good state.
Not an ideal physical situation.
Um,
That just
but
doesn't sound good, but
well, what I had what I had dealt with since late 2019 is nerve pain due to a tumor in my lower left abdomen pressing
oh,
down on the genitofemoral
Benign
nerve
tumor.
branch. Hold
You got it.
on.
You always forget to say that, man. Don't scare people.
It was not benign as far as I was concerned.
But it
Um,
was like not
it was
growing.
not cancerous.
okay.
Is the
That's
important
a
part.
that's a plus.
But
Yeah.
it was essentially it was a soft tissue mass bearing down on a major nerve branch.
Ooh.
And I had while I was recovering from the um, the hand and elbow surgery. I pinched the nerve,
Mhm.
and so I had a massive relapse. The pain was so intense that Heather says I was more bed than man for about a month.
Yeah.
And
That's
then
fair though.
you
Like
know, it was miserable. Uh,
it doesn't.
and so I was on the tail end of that as I was editing Titan Mage Rising, um, which by the way I think is a fantastic book, and I think Heather really did a great job with it. And I think it's safe to say that's your most epic book so far.
That's fair.
Um,
Cat
but
girl.
uh, but fans of Edie Sky, you ain't seen nothing yet. Time Makes Apocalypse is called Apocalypse for a
I
reason.
can't wait for Apocalypse, and I've only read up to Dragons, so but
Well, one of the things that
Close this
we
out
we
for like
we,
30
we
minutes.
I'm sorry, what?
He's been trying to end for like
no,
30
no, no, it's
minutes.
good. It's good.
Oh, I mean, if you need to
Not
end, we can
forever.
stop.
No, my plan for the rest of the night is literally going and sitting on my couch, cuddling up to Lunar the Gamer Kitten, and playing Zelda. That is my night.
All right.
So,
Well, we knew exactly where everything was headed. Um, basically, um, before the first book was done. Um, and one of the places that I took inspiration from when I was outlining the fifth book is was from Heather's favorite mecha series of all time, Gurren Lagann.
Oh,
okay, I can
yes.
get down on some.
Now,
As long as you didn't say Evangelion, I was like, all right, hold on, going on my rate
now,
here. No, Gurren Lagann's
The
good.
Evangelion fan. I politely tolerate Evangelion, but I really love the mech designs. Like, oh my gosh, Ava 1 is my favorite. I love it so much. But yeah, Gurren Lagann all the way. It's so much more optimistic than
I have
Evangelion.
I
so
I have a tainted history with that anime, but I still love it. So,
So there is a degree of escalation that happens in uh, book five, and any readers who have also watched Gurren Lagann will very much get the reference. But
Oh, I've got Easter eggs in there too. Like,
you have Easter eggs, but then there's also the big
there's
one,
also direct references.
the,
Yeah.
the very big one.
Oh yeah. But yeah, if you ever get to a point in book 5 where you wonder, is this a Gurren Lagann Easter egg? It's probably a Gurren Lagann Easter egg.
all right. So, I do
I had a
have
lot of fun
I
with
do have a
references.
funny story for you though, HP, because
Yes.
you're gonna like this. Because when I had you on at Christmas for our little thing, I asked you permission to make that canvas of one of the books because I wanted to have some like wall decor for my new place. So I made it. I made
Yes.
I made Ruins cover, with Ember, and it turned out really good.
Nice.
It's hanging up in my library where my game room is and everything and all that fun stuff. So my mom came over to the house and I forgot I had it hanging up. Just give me a second. Just bear with me here as I run away.
Oh dear.
It's gonna be epic. I'm excited. The
Because
anticipation
as I
grows.
come back, so hanging up in my library is a pretty decent size, book. So here we go.
Mhm.
This is the book cover, right?
Yeah.
And I made this at work too. Luckily, my coworker was standing there who was like, "Okay, I know what you read. That's fine." This is what I made, and it was hanging up in my office library, and my mom just looked at me and goes, "Really?" I was like, "Hey, mom, it's a book cover, and it's a series I really like. So yes, really."
Person who got in trouble with Ember's boobs. I I have a list on Facebook of people I don't share Titan Mage things with, and it's primarily because I posted a close up of Ember's boobs and immediately got a call from my mom and dad that are like, Heather,
Well,
we see your new author page. We need to talk.
the reason I chose that one specifically is because Ember is my favorite.
Ember's so good. I love Ember.
Now the
I
cat
mean,
girl is working her way up, and I absolutely adore her. So
once
So
you meet Sloane, oh yeah.
so
Sloane is she's gonna be she's I have forgotten the word for it. She's definitely a contender.
so one of the interesting things, when I was working on the initial outline, of course, I had done, rough sketches of the various characters. And so I had in my head a certain expectation for like what the roles of the various characters would be, and what how they would kind of come across to the reader. And two of them, when Heather got a hold of those characters, went in very different directions. Um, Ember and Bexley.
They traded places.
What?
They kind of traded places the way you'd intended them to be.
Yeah, to a certain degree. I mean, I think so. I knew that Heather needed at least one character to be just this font of sassery.
Yes, I
And
always had to have a sassy character.
so
Like
the intention was that Ember was going to be that character.
okay.
And Bexley was not Bexley was not Bexley until Heather got a hold of the character.
well, it was that I got a hold of the character. It was Jacob. Jacob drafted the first few chapters of Titan Mage,
Okay.
to sort of give me a hint as to how the story should be written, because Titan Mage is not written like my HP Holo stuff. I don't want to say it's simpler, but it is a lot more free flowing, I guess you could say, and a lot more whimsical. Well, whimsical is the wrong word, but it has fewer limits on it in terms of craft. And so I was reading what Jacob gave me, and then I got to the scene with the sausage song in it that Bexley sings very early on, and it's like
When we first
there's
meet her,
I can meet this character who is singing a really salacious song about sausages that may not be food, and not have her be the sassy character. and so she
So
automatically she and Ember switched places.
so the first draft of the first 15,000 words, and I forget exactly how many chapters that is, but of Titan Mage, I wrote those.
it's
So
good
the
stuff.
prologue, basically all the way up to where they're they have essentially their first business meeting with Locke,
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
they're right before they head toward Endpoint City.
Yeah, I think my stuff really starts. Yeah.
And then that's where Heather picks up with the first book. So what I was trying to do there was kind of utilize a technique that David Weber utilized with our collaboration on the Gordian Protocol.
Okay.
So he wrote um, 6 of the first 7 chapters, I want to say,
Holy
and
crap.
he did the plot outline, and so he set the tone, uh, and then I took it and I finished the first draft, and then there was editing back and forth. So Titan Mage was Heather and I worked on that very much the same way, except I took essentially the senior role in that I wrote the outline, I wrote the first few chapters to set the tone, and then I handed it over to her, and then I acted as editor. And I think we got it off to a successful, strong start there.
I think at this point it's mostly me. Like I occasionally
Oh
come
yeah.
to you for world stuff, but it's like there are the outlines that Jacob gave me were very skeletal.
Mm-hmm.
Because I find that it helps me to have outlines because it helps me keep myself on task. If I don't have an outline, I just go nuts with the world building and everything escalates out of control. But if I have a really, really simple outline that just tells me the plot, I basically have this rule where I can do whatever I want with the world and characters as long as it ties directly into the plot. And so that gives me the right kind of freedom that I need to write while also giving me direction. And one of my rules is that I don't change outlines unless I have to. It's like once the plot is set, the plot is set. You cannot make crazy changes.
Right.
And
So
but
one
but as yeah,
so one thing to know about the Titan Mage series, the Indigo Griffin and that entire crew,
Mm-hmm.
Sevis, Ryan,
Yeah.
you haven't met all of them or met them to
they first show
gotten
up.
to know them well, but all of those characters,
They show up at the
that's
very end of book 2.
Yeah.
they they are 100% HP Hollow / ED Sky creations.
They were not in the
They were
outline.
not in, yeah, they were not in the original outlines. And I
Really,
think
really
that
start
they
getting to
are,
Book 3.
and I think that they are fantastic additions to the series. That their presence really helps enrich the world building, and they're a real fun cast of characters that kind of supplement the main cast.
Okay. There.
But the point I wanted to make about the outlines is that since they're so skeletal, I do get to have a lot of fun with them. And it's book 4 actually ended up, even though I followed the outline pretty closely, it actually ended up being a lot different
Mm-hmm.
in some ways because in book 4, the outline, the villain was fairly mustache twirly and not stereotypical, but you pretty much, yeah, he's a villain, definitely. But the way the villain ended up being written in book 4 took some really interesting turns that neither of us really expected. Solely because I got attached to one of the characters that I did not expect to get attached to.
This
And
this is how it goes with her. She'll get
yeah,
attached to a character, and then
yeah.
suddenly her brain is off to the races.
Oh yeah, and it happens especially with minor characters too. Like there are so many minor characters in this series that readers have gotten attached to that it just astonishes me. Like apparently Tally has a pretty huge like mini fandom amidst my readers. Tally only appears in like 3 scenes in the entire series, but there are readers who love her, and it fascinates me. But she's like one of the receptionists at the Arcane Index.
Yeah.
But she's really cute, shy, sort of elfin.
We meet her in the first book.
Yes.
Yeah, she's the first one, and I can't remember if she shows up in the second one or not. But you run into her whenever they have to go pick up new bounties. Generally, it's either her or it's her or Lola. They always run into one of those two.
I think she's in the beginning of book 2 before they go to rescue Ember's mom.
All right, yeah.
I want to say, I could be wrong.
I know there's one that she doesn't appear in just because I didn't really have an immediate need for her, but
I'm trying to think.
but yeah.
But see, Titan Mage has so many fun-loving characters, and
Nice.
like the
I love
main group of the girls, we love them all. I'm afraid to ask who's on the cover of book 5, just because one, amazing
5 is
cover.
Pith. Yeah, book 5 is definitely Pith. So each of the girls get once you reach the end of the series, each of the girls have their own cover.
Okay. And
So
5 is the
Alyssa,
final book.
Bexley, Sloane, and Pith. So yep.
I'm gonna need a sticker for her. She's got to be added to the computer because I have Alyssa, who is it, Alyssa or Amelia? That's the
Alyssa.
captain.
Yeah.
Alyssa, okay.
Yeah.
And then Ember, I have 2 different Bexleys because I have the normal cover and then I have the spicy cover.
The artwork, he had a removable layer, and so I had 2 different versions because of that. And then there's also some extra layers with Pith too. Now that I think of it, I should have made multiple stickers for that one, but yeah, stickers are forthcoming. Our stickers actually arrived, and so I need to put them up on my shop. But yeah,
woo!
I'm behind on everything.
All right, well, that does bring us to the end of our show. So, I want to thank you both for joining me. Jacob, HP, thank you guys so much. This was an absolute fun time. And of course, it's always chaos when HP's on the show because it's just...
Yes, I know.
We love it. We love it. No, it's some of our best times. So, yes, of course, you guys are always welcome on the show. And of course, once come around November and everything, when the Dyson file comes out, I'm going to bring you back on because I'm going to want to talk about it and all that fun stuff. I don't even have a schedule booked for right now for after this. I know Demetrius, who is the author of the Physics of the Apocalypse and the Apocosmos series, I reached out to him. We're just trying to work out scheduling, and I have a few others. I need to get Lydia on the show because I want to talk into the reel because that one's good. And now that the Monster Hunter Go game's coming out, I gotta talk to her about it. So
I'm stupidly excited for that. Oh my gosh, we're already planning date nights. Like if they use the same map that they use for Pokemon Go, I know where all the good local spots are, and I have plans.
Oh, we're playing it at Dragon Con if it's out. We're gonna be hunting monsters in Dragon Con. Is there gonna be a Rathalos there? I hope.
There better be.
But thank you guys.
Once. Oh, thank you. Thank you for
guys.
having us.
It does mean a lot to have you guys on. And of course, we get the man, the myth, the legend, Jacob on for finally after hearing about him so much from HP. So this was an absolute treat and a delight. But this has been Stats on Stats for everything Lit RPG, Game Lit, Sci-Fi, all that fun stuff. Hope you all have a wonderful night. Thank you.